He took a seat on his pine wood chair and let his arms rest on his desk that had bits of moss growing about it. He let his mind unravel the hours that had passed. When all the strings of the day had revealed themselves, he pulled the strings that mattered most, noted them with the light of his pen, and cast them in his orb. His notes and summary took him nearly 2 hours, when he noticed his lighted door begin to pulsate. The opaqueness of the door became clear, revealing the man behind it. Enoch felt a sense of relief when he saw it was Olaf. The binds of light fell away from the arch, letting him inside. "Hello, old friend," Enoch greeted him with a smile.
"Who are you calling old?"
said the stout Olaf with a voice gruff and gravelled. "The man with the cane that stands before me," Enoch responded.
"Ah, I see. Old may be the man, but young is the mind and the heart,"
Olaf said, taking a seat across from Enoch. "Well then, my greeting seems a little misplaced, doesn't it?" he said.
"Very much indeed,"
Olaf said, grinning ear to ear, lighting his pipe of minted leaves.
"You know,"
he paused as he blew circles of smoke into the air,
"I'm really surprised we got the vote to go as it did. I did what I could to convince the doubters on both sides of the aisle, but never felt truly convinced they would follow through. I was waiting to be stabbed in the back. Can't say it was all of me that persuaded the minds of our colleagues. Steiner and Orstein certainly do have a talent of tongue."
"Are Steiner and Orstein on their way, or is it just you and I tonight, sorting through what needs to be done before going forward?" Enoch asked.
"They should be here shortly, I'd say. Give them a few minutes. If they're not here shortly, we will go on without them," said Olaf, inhaling deeply on his pipe.
"We'll be quite handicapped without them. We need Steiner for military strategy should retaliation occur from Holle, and Oystein knows the country's finances like he knows the bends in his ears," Enoch replied.
Of course. Let's not get too serious. Time is on our side at the moment,"
Olaf said, his body relaxed, puffing away, creating figures with the smoke he exhaled. Moments later, the 2 Engel elves entered the room. Steinar was tall and slender, dressed all in black, with an expression of a mythical sphinx. His robes and appearance were always well manicured, but underneath his facade lay tattered ink on his skin and scars that were an art of their own. Oystein was quite the opposite, shorter than most Engel elves, with a dark blue robe, tattered hair and glasses that were usually broken. His ears were a bit bigger than most, and his voice was soft and quiet as if dampened by the wet air. He was the first to speak. "Good evening," was all he said, adjusting his glasses as he took his seat next to Olaf.
"Gentlemen,"
Steinar acknowledged Enoch and Olaf in a tone that was clear yet mechanical.
"Boys, how good of you to join us. We were about to start without you,"
said Olaf, giving a punch on the arm of Steinar and tossing the hair of Oystein, somehow giving him a less dishevelled appearance. Steinar gave him a bit of an eye roll, suggesting it was Olaf being his typical boisterous self. Oystein paid him no mind, too focused on examining the lens of his glasses. Their talks of strategy, both militarily and economically, coloured portraits of clarity. The painted fog of doubt was slowly lifted by the heat of faith. Plans of defence dyed the maps of light that showed an image of the world. Splattered red were points of attack, and dusted blue marked defence. If war were an art, Steiner was the artist, and his palette of paint was endless. For centuries he studied the wars of the world, its heroes and villains, its causes and its outcomes. His mind was a barracks that held the weapon of intelligence. In order to prepare for war, economic measures had to be taken, and in order to spend the amount that was needed, it first had to be earned. The funds had to hold value, and its value was stone, a stone only held in land of Engla, a treasured commodity that was necessary for many industrial practices. It was noted in the musical harmony of conversation that some government functions have to be disbanded as money would need to be saved. Oystein distinguished how it would be morally irresponsible to spend the money of the people on frivolous programs when war or economic depression were looming even closer. Oystein also suggested that war bonds be marketed and sold to the populace in order to generate the support of the people in a cause that they deemed to be in their country's best interests. His mind for money and his genius to predict market movements were well known throughout the world. However, in the divinity of truth, what he hypothesized was subjective, bound by the eternal embrace of uncertainty, for he knew that to predict a certain economic outcome was like predicting the climate. There were hundreds upon hundreds of variables that influenced its direction, and to foresee its pattern was like describing what lies beyond infinity. An epoch of a grain of sand falling in the boundless compass of space and time crashed upon the surface of its prison, and the night was dark and brooding. A glossy streak of 1,000 lights flashed into the wicked sky, and it was no more as it pierced open the clouds and let the waters fall from Emperine. The open structure of the ministry's building was tapped by the pressure of rain, and as the water percussed upon the building like drummers on a snare, its arches formed the liquid falling from the sky into solid sheets of ice, barring any rain from seeping its way into the warmth of its octangular figure, keeping all who dwelled inside dry from the cruel wrath of nature. Olav's pipe fell smokeless. Øystein's mind closed like a vault. Steinar's mood turned sour, and Enoch's eyes nearly shut as the meeting of the minds neared its end. Enoch said his goodbyes to each of them, but unlike his fellow friends, he did not go home. His mind and heart led him somewhere he did not yet know. He hiked an hour, close to 2 in the black of night, with the rain falling softly on his face. The droplets traced a scar that laid faint about his neck, a wound from a different era, one he'd never forget. The voice inside his mind that chanted quietly his name got ever louder with every step he made, and spoke to him one last time, saying, "Visa sate, visa sate." Then, like particles floating rapidly in the air, Enoch vanished. He reappeared, and his eyes saw the beauty of the place his messenger had led him. Its river was a calming powdered purple and twinkled with the night sky. The clouds had parted ways, showing its countenance to the charm of the earth. The rocks and snow mirrored the bands of light that reflected off the mystic river. Enoch knew the river as Tilgivelse. It was the river of forgiveness, but he was dumbfounded as he noticed the layers of snow around him. It was only Mutascio. How can there be snow? He thought. Enoch looked up and knew now where he was, for there were no mountains when his eyes dashed upwards. There were only the stars and the planets of the undiscovered universe. "It is impossible to be here," he said to himself. "No man nor machine is supposed to survive this place." Enoch looked down below and saw his world as no one had seen it before, and watched the flowing water of the Tilgivelse River slide down the never-ending mountain, from sea to shining sea. He turned to face the peak of the mountain, and saw a monstrous figure, much like a shadow. Enoch could not make out a face, nor the colour of its skin. He could only see its outline. Its shoulders were broad and heavy, its waist thin and physique masculine. Beside the shadowy figure was a dark and mysterious hole that stood vertically and whose depth reached for all eternity. Enoch's heart began to flutter like the beating wings of a butterfly. He could feel it knocking on his chest. The acclivity of emotion that swirled within his soul wanted to explore the mysteries that were within the black hole. But his mind felt differently. What lay on the other side he could not see. Was it death? If he were to follow the pull of his heart, would he ever return to the place that he loved? Or would he be lost in the endless bounds of curiosity, never finding his way home? All these things and more he thought, and he wondered where the voice that called his name was now. Enoch took a step forward, the pace of his beating heart getting ever faster. Another step he took, and then one more. He looked at the cumbersome adumbrate, but he did not fear its unyielding presence of power. Instead, his mind was at ease. Enoch closed his eyes and let the darkness consume him. Enoch's eyes unhinged from the clasp of fear, but his heart kept its rolling beat. He could see the earth and the heavens, the ways the wind moved and the pattern of the ocean's flow. Then he gazed upon the expanse that was forever, but he could see its ends. The four winds he could see, which bound the earth to the heaven, and the heaven to the earth. The shadow that stood before the endless portal now stood beside Enoch. The shadow strode forward and gestured for him to follow. Enoch was hesitant, with nerves snapping like bolts of light, sending signals to his brain, all the signs of caution and prudence. He took a deep breath and followed the towering figure, and the creature told him where he was.
"Steady your heart, Enoch, for this is not your death. You are in the bounds of Empyrine and Terra. See how the two are held together."
Below was the foundation of the earth, and the four winds which bear the firmament of heaven. The four pillars of fire, vibrant and glorious, connected the world to one another. Enoch's mind marvelled at the sights that were before him, and he began to write all that he saw, and all that was told him with the light of his pen. The apparition spoke again, its voice full and imposing.
"See everything that takes place in the highest. How they do not change their orbits, how they rise and set in the order in which they were destined, and how they never waver from their purpose. It is the same upon the world in which you live. How the season of the summer comes as it should, so too the winter. Observe the purpose of the oceans, the clouds, and even the dew that rest upon the grass on a mild morning of a summer day. Note the trees and how they bear fruit, and see the rivers and clear lakes. Observe how they give sustenance and never falter from their design. Hold in mind, these are eternal, as they do not sin against their cause." The eternal being paused as Enoch scanned the grand design, and then the Eidolon continued. "Now behold the people of the world. Their sins vary in severity, and in their transgressions the world which is for them to do as they will suffers, and so they too suffer, and thus their days upon the earth are numbered. You can see now, even before you came here, that your home will soon burn bright in reds and orange, and then fall dull in grey, and be buried in the blackness."
Enoch saw his home, the edifice of the clouds in their dissolving end, the welcoming of the seasons and how they circled one another, being one but never one. He saw the portals of the sun and the moon, and how the earth waltzed with the moon, and how the earth and the moon danced with the sun like the slow and steady course of a foxtrot. His eyes wept at the beauty of the bond between the heaven and the earth. To him it was the magnum opus, a design pure and exalted, without flaw, eternal and everlasting.
Do not drip the salted tears within your eyes, for there is more for you to see, but now you must go and tell those of what you have witnessed. When you speak the words you have scribbled with your pen, many will hurl imprecations at you, and you will be very much alone. Keep those closest in your heart with a firm grip, for even they may waver in the howl of the terror, in the wind of the storm. Go in peace, Enoch, said the spiring spirit, as he opened a portal which was dark and endured for ever and ever. Enoch closed his eyes and walked again into the blackness.